Alright, today on RecNation we're going to install two simple accessories on the UForce 600. The first is the panoramic mirror. It mounts with two hoops that go around the bar, and then we have the license plate kit from Coello Performance. We'll get that mounted on there as well. Alright, in the license plate kit, they give you the license plate. It's actually made out of a nice metal, nice and thick and strong. They give you your letters and numbers that you need to stick on there. And there's also a mount kit, and then two zip ties in case you got a mount with zip ties. We're going to try to mount that right back here underneath. You see it's a square bar, so I don't think those round pipe clamps are going to work. We may have to use the zip ties to get it on there. So those clamps will work even on the square tube. I got them bent around there. Put the license plate on, put the bolts through, tighten it up, then we can put the numbers on, we'll be all set. Alright, so now you can see we got the bolt all tightened up here, and it fits pretty well. So, mounting the rear view, it's kind of the same thing, this clamp goes around. So here's the problem we ran into, and these are up here. You can see it don't quite reach the bolts not long enough, so we had to find a little longer bolt that went through, and then it'll work just fine. In order to get it to fit, we had to put another little bend on that side so they can come together and the bolt goes through straight. We did get one in. We had to move it over. That middle mount there for the factory mirror is too wide for this mirror, so we just slid it over a little bit. We'll get the other one on and show you what it looks like. We got the mirror mounted. We had to use longer bolts to get around the little bigger roll bar there. Mirror folds down. It's all set. It's ready to roll. After we got those two quick installs done, we took the UForce 600 out for a ride here in Pataska County. Most of the town roads and county roads are open for ATVs and UTVs. You just got to follow certain regulations, like having it registered and having the license plate on the back so they can see it. We're cruising out here to the winter use trails. We ran into this road here. This road is actually under construction. It's supposed to have blacktop on it, but I thought it'd be a good chance to go ahead and give it a try and see how it worked, and it handled it pretty well. There's you can see some spots are slushy, some spots are muddy, and some spots are icy. It cruised along really well. There's a couple of washboards on here that just kind of cruised over those washboards. Surprisingly, again, I understand this is a China-made side-by-side, and it's not name brand shocks on there, but going over that chop in there, the washboard in the road from the road construction, it handled it pretty well. Those shocks sucked up the bumps and really didn't transmit any of that into the chassis or steering wheel. We're cruising along here about 25 miles or so, 25 miles an hour or so, and you can see the condition of the trails here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to head a little farther north and get to the northern part of the county where the snowmobile trails are still open. There are a few trails here in Pataska County that are open for winter use, ATV, UTV. Again, you got to follow the regulations. Usually it takes about 10 days after the trails are open for snowmobiles to get the base kind of packed in. Then they'll open them up for the ATVs and UTVs to ride on. So kind of a good deal. But we're heading out there right now. Just cruising down the road. You can see this speedometer there. It hits about 40 rather easy. It is kind of a downhill stretch. I was taking it easy here. I wasn't giving it full throttle. Only about 3/4 throttle, and overall I think it would probably hit about 50 miles an hour. Revving it out downhill, you might get 55, but it's still pretty new yet, and I didn't really want to beat on it, so I was kind of taking her easy to get out there. Again, every time I ride it, it surprises me on how well it works and how well it handles, and here it's pretty easy cruising down the road, but it handled it well, nice and smooth. There wasn't any shutter in the steering wheel. That EPS on there, you can tell that works well. With the windshield on there from Super ATV and the rear window from Super ATV, there wasn't a lot of wind in the cab. There wasn't a lot of wind noise. We were wearing helmets because it was kind of cold out this day. You can see I got my snowmobile gloves on there, but communicating back and forth because of the helmets, we really couldn't hear each other. But if we were sitting there with no helmets on, we could have had a conversation while we were cruising down the road. It doesn't make a lot of noise. There isn't a lot of engine noise or exhaust noise, and again, with the windshield on, there's not a lot of wind noise. Overall, it handled it very well. Again, take it out and rewrite it on a snowmobile trail. You'll see that here in a little bit. But before we get there, I want to talk about someone had asked me how my experience was at American Marine and Motorsports, what it was like buying from them guys, and it was a pretty good experience. I ended up going online, checking out their website, seeing what they had on the lot there. They had a couple of UForce 600s there. There was 2 blue ones and a camouflage one. They had a Z-Force 800, and that was about it. So I checked them out online. They'll go check them out in person. So I drove up there. Walking up in the front, they had a row of ATVs and the camouflage UForce 600 sitting there. I checked it out real quick. When I walked inside, I was met by Rick, one of the sales guys there at American Marine and Motorsports, and he was real nice. He kind of mentioned, hey, I seen you were checking out that UForce 600. Is that what you're kind of interested in? And I said, yeah, I'm looking for a side-by-side. Just seen the CF Moto and was kind of interested in the UForce, and so you guys have one in stock. So he took me back to where they have the ATVs, UTVs, kind of showed me all the features of the UForce 600. Started it up. Obviously, it was in the showroom floor. I couldn't take it for a drive that day. He also showed me the Z-Force 800. Kind of compared the two. I was looking more for a utility side-by-side versus a sport side-by-side. And the Z-Force 800's got a twin-cylinder 800cc's V-twin. It doesn't have the bench seat. It's got 2 bucket seats with a center console in it, so it's not quite as roomy as the bench seat is in the UForce 600. It would be a lot more sporty to ride, probably better handling, a little more speed to it, but again, I wanted something that had more utility, so I went with the UForce 600. So after talking to Rick, saying, yeah, this is the model that I want, we kind of sat down. He went through some of the numbers on what it was going to cost, tax, registration, dealer fees, and we looked at it, and I did finance part of this, so he said I'd work with Eric Peterson, who's the business manager at American Marine and Motorsports. I had to wait a few minutes, and then I went back into Eric's office. We went through the paperwork, filled out the loan app. It was a day or so later, he gave me a call, said, hey, we got you a loan through this bank, and we're good to go. So I went back, went into Eric's office, met with Eric, signed all the paperwork, got everything finished up on that end of it, and then I met with a gentleman named Ricky Pataska. He's the delivery manager. So at American Marine and Motorsports, they have their main showroom where you go to look at the vehicles, talk to the sales staff, etc. And then a couple blocks down, they actually have like their shop area that they do parts and service through, and that's where you accept your delivery. So it took probably about 45 minutes at the delivery area. Ricky went through every feature on there, made sure I knew how to use how to turn the lights on, how to switch it into 4-wheel drive, going from high to low range. He pointed out all the grease certs and how to. He went through the manual and showed me the maintenance specs and everything on there, so it was pretty decent. And then he went through everything that came with it. You seen in the first video there, I kind of showed you everything they had thrown in. Pretty good deal. We drove it out the door, and that was kind of the end of it. So overall, it was a good experience at American Marine and Motorsports. I'd buy from them again. I think it went very smoothly. good group of people working up there, and again, I think it went very well. But back to the video here. You can see we're on the winter use UTV trails here, and the UForce 600. It's handling it pretty well. We're not going real fast. We're cruising along probably about 25 miles an hour here. So the snow was a little loose in some places. Wasn't too rough of a trail, which was kind of nice, but it handled it really good. I was pleasantly surprised. Again, every time I drive this thing, it amazes me more and more that it does as well as it does, and I couldn't be happier with it. So I'll pause the commentary for a few minutes here. I'll let you guys listen to the motor sounds as we cruise along the winter use trails here in central Wisconsin. Alright, so there you go. You got a glimpse of what it looks like driving the UForce down a snowmobile trail. It worked really well. I had a lot of fun. It's not comparable to a snowmobile on snowmobile trails, but still very enjoyable time. Hopefully we'll get her out there again before the trails close down for the season. I hope you guys liked this week's video. Join us again next week for a new episode of RecNation. Have a good day.